Ready? Okay, so let's get started. We have with us Sean Collins, who's the ALPA Eastern Regional Manager. And he's here for a discussion, a question and answer to do with us. So if anybody's got any questions, feel free to start asking.
Okay, well, I'll throw one out, and it's about government grants. And I believe, Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, but all our grants have been written by the Gale Associates. And Sean had some thoughts on it and a suggestion. He shared with me that the airport manager down in Sanford was really successful in writing her own grants, and that she's actually branched out and is doing that for others for a fee. So I'd like to throw that out there. But Richard, I wonder if you know the answer to this before we go there. Do we pay like a fee per hour when Gale writes a grant, or is it included in some kind of a budget, or how does that work?
They bill it against the project. So what the grant paperwork is kind of included in what we bill, what they bill for total project.
And I don't mean, is it something like $500 or $1,000 or $5,000? You have any
I
idea?
couldn't even tell you. We never really drilled down into it because we don't pay the bill until the money comes back from the FAA, and then it's 5% of that. Usually, it's project administration.
What if the grant doesn't come through? So you still have to pay Gale, right? You said you wait for them to.
No, we don't. Well, we've never had a grant not come through.
Oh.
We've had grants get delayed, but we've never had one not come through. And we didn't hold their invoice. We don't pay their invoices until we actually receive reimbursement from FAA.
That sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, what's your thought on that?
Well, I mean, process wise, that's pretty standard. That's probably how it would go, is they're gonna do it by the project. In reference to the person that I was speaking about, it was more from a management type position. So she does airport management, and as a part of that, she'll also manage the grants for your airport. I think it's worth acknowledging, like, I'm not trying to promote her. It was a conversation we were having separately per se, and just awareness of her job. But she is the airport manager at the Sanford Regional Airport currently, and she also does a contract management with the Freiburg Airport. And I believe there's a third airport, which the name escapes me at the moment, but I think it's the New Hampshire Airport, HIE.
That's Mount Washington?
Yes.
Washington.
Or not, or one of those airports over there, right? She may be doing that as well. So that's just in background. I know her, by the way. She, up until most recently, was the chair of the Maine Aeronautical Advisory Board, and I'm not trying to carry her personal business's water, but
No, but it doesn't necessarily have to be her, but we do have the option, and I never thought about it, of going to an outside source to write the grants.
Yeah, there's consultants all over the place and stuff like that.
sure.
But one concern I would have is you always had good luck with Gale. They've treated you fairly. The compensation arrangement is all right. Isn't it better to continue our relationship with them?
Well, let's not put too much lipstick on the pig.
Okay.
It has not always been rosy, and I'm usually pushing. And so we have gone through a number of primary contacts at Gale Associates.
Yeah.
It's not commonplace for me to say, oh, remember this person, they're not with us anymore, we're working with this one. So we have Matt, who's the head of the aviation division, that is pretty much my point of contact.
Yeah, and he's the one that has been in touch with me about this stuff as well.
Right, because I don't think he direct bills against the airport.
No, it was predominantly on the pre-issue that I dealt with him on.
So, but they have been productive mostly. We see a lot of delays, but those delays I think are largely budgetary.
Yeah.
In terms of what's coming in, and then how much money they have to do a project. Obviously, no matter who you're gonna use for a firm, it's not the grant development, I don't think. That's the costly part of it. I think it's relatively negligible when you look at.
I guess I just wonder if Gale is representing, I'm gonna guess 20 airports in this area. versus. How are they influenced by, who would they really like the money to go to?
How do you mean?
If there's a grant available and it can only go to one airport. And there are, and Gail's writing it for 20. Are they writing it? So, well, they'd really like Augusta to get the grant this year because, or for whatever reason, they think Augusta should get it, or money from Augusta or whatever. I wonder if it would be in our interest to have an independent.
I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but the grant process isn't competitive.
Oh.
It's a matter of pulling it together and then just submitting it, and getting the approval of it. It's when you start getting into like the terminal grants where that might be more competitive, it is more competitive because there's a limited pool of funds. The FAA just really allocates you your annual allowance of funds, and then that goes into build up to projects, so, and then we set the projects. So it's just demonstrated need, we obviously can't ask for something that we don't need.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they are a full service engineering. I believe they don't just do aviation.
I mean, aviation is a growing part of their business, honestly, most of what they're doing, from what I can tell, is athletics. Athletic complexes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of what they're doing, these turf field conversions, things like that. Yeah. I don't think they're much in the business of, roadway, things like that.
No, they're civil engineers.
So then, let me just close the topic by asking, is it worth us pursuing this further, or should we let it drop?
Well, I mean, one thing we can do is call the guy up and ask him,
The person from,
unless he gets
Sanford.
offended by that.
Call which person?
The one that I can't remember his name, the guy that I dealt with,
From Gail.
yeah.
Okay. And call them and ask them, would you mind if we farmed it out to somebody else?
No, not that, just what resources are available to us outside of his office. If he values us as a client, he will give us that information.
I'm losing the context of what it has to do with grant writing.
Well, if they don't do it, for instance, if they sub it out,
Uh-huh.
maybe it can be done cheaper that way. But it sounds to me like the money part isn't really the issue. It's a matter of pulling everything together, getting it done, getting it submitted, and then getting the money back.
I wasn't thinking of it as a cost savings. I was thinking of it as revenue generated by getting grants that maybe we're not even submitting.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't think any of us will do.
One not aware of.
Yeah. Where maybe somebody like, just as an example, this person from Sanford will be very aware of what grants are available for airports, because that's her life.
Right.
I don't know. I forget. Input if, who's the
Go ahead,
chair,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I'm not sure who's approved that to, okay, my apologies.
Go ahead.
John, so, the grants that you need, or the projects that you need to have done, are really a function of your master plan. Your master plan dictates this is where we are today, and this is where we'd like to be 20 years from now. What the FAA requires is the airport layout plan, which is a 5-year outlook. These are the things that we expect to do over the next 5 years. And then it's more or less a function, I think, to your comment, this is what's on the list that we need to do next. And so we're gonna write a grant for those things. I would add, it is a competitive process from the FAA standpoint, but you're not competing against Bangor and Portland, for instance. You're competing against airports that are in your asset category, or your airport type, essentially. So you're non-commercial service, your general aviation airport, those are the other airports that you're competing with. And now the FAA has their own prioritization based on what projects, the safety need of the airport. So, a runway ceiling is gonna get, a higher priority than potentially a new apron kind of thing. That's kind of how the FAA looks at it. But then there's another layer, the state of Maine and the Department of Transportation has their own priority. And they just went through their own system plan, which just got finalized the end of last year into this year. And that helps the state determine where they want to spend their money. The FAA, for the most part, leaves it to the states to decide how those projects are going to be funded, because the state has to put forward its 5%, just as you do. So again, I just wanted to offer that.
Okay.
Color there, I didn't want to speak out of turn.
You are clearly the expert here.
That's right.
Well, thank you, but
So in light of that, could we just do a vote? Should I pursue this and maybe look into possible other grant writers and see what they have to offer, or should we let it drop?
What would we gain?
I'm hoping someone who, or some organization that might be a little bit more aggressive toward helping us as opposed to helping someone else.
Well, isn't the question really, it's not so much being aggressive about the grants. It's being more aggressive about what's in our plan and what needs to be done. In the sense that if we have a plan that says, okay, our number one project for within the next 5 years is to
Paper runway.
is the paper runway. Okay. And so that's our number one. You have Princeton or one of the other airports has a more aggressive plan of doing something else, then they may be in a situation where they may get the funding because they happen to be in a category that the state of Maine, Department of Transportation, and the federal government feels is a higher priority than what we have. And so they're likely to get the funding and we're not. So it's kind of a function of what we put in our plan and how we develop our plan and how that syncs with what the state has for priorities and what the feds have for priorities.
Is that plan not already written in stone?
We already have a plan, right?
Yeah, our master plan was updated in 17, and then the CIP chart that we update. It's fluid, it never stays the same every time we look at it, something shifts, and it's usually due to a lack of revenue and increased costs.
Can we copies of that? Copies of important things in it? Would be
Yeah,
When is it,
educational for us, I think.
does it have to be updated every 10 years?
Master plan gets updated.
Every 10
And
years?
how often does the master plan get updated?
typically it's every 10-ish years, but to your prior comment, as a function of
Right,
cost.
in our CIP, which is what we work with FAA and DOT, we go to DOT first and then they present it to FAA. That's every 6 months, we get together a little bit, and inevitably, just kind of comes down the list a little bit further.
But we're gonna be looking at a new master plan in the next 2 or 3 years.
Should be, yep.
And that might be a time for us to look at what we need to have done here at the airport to prioritize some of the higher projects.
The current,
Offer more insight for you. I don't want to speak out of turn.
Go, you're fine.
Okay. So the 5-year airport layout plan is pretty much more of an engineering plan. So that's the value that, again, any consultant's gonna bring you is, okay, your runway's in this condition, this is what we expect based on this usage over the next 2, 3, 5 years. Same thing with your taxiways, and based on what they know about mechanical and the technology that's on the airport, they kind of have a sense of when that's gonna be, when those things are gonna run out, whatever. So that's really what that plan is based on what you know you need to do now and what you expect to change in the future. Now, to a conversation that was held earlier, again, FAA is primarily safety and capacity projects. I think some of the things that I think eventually you'd like to talk about are maybe some of the things that help the airport, but those would be certainly a separate conversation. Those wouldn't necessarily be the things you have on the airport layout plan or the master plan. Potentially, but
who drafts that plan?
Gail,
Gail does. Yeah, I'm just a big believer in loyalty and sticking with people that know you and we know them. And I wasn't anticipating the stick on the pig comment, but I have heard nothing but good things about them, and the guy that I dealt with was extremely helpful to me.
well, part of, to go along with what you're saying, some of the things that we could do in a plan that would be safety related and wear related would also, depending on how we do it, be very advantageous to us from an airport growth point of view. So if we try to say, hey, we want this done so we can grow the airport, they're gonna say no. But if we say, these are the projects that we have to do for safety, for layout, for we know this is gonna burn out, so we're gonna have to replace it. But when we replace it, if we did it this way, then that might help us in the long run in terms of growth.
So this, if I may, this document kind of lays out what we've got planned already. And the years that they're expected to be done.
Yeah, this was going into that meeting in June. And then so I made some footnotes down to the bottom where the runway lighting was supposed to be completed all at once. But the cost came in far more than what they had thought, so then they broke it up, so this year design only, and next year will be construction, so that's another push in the project timeline. The terminal grant, we're gonna go once more for that, but this will be the last year for that. The AWAS system, that's coming in 2026, but that's all gonna be carried by the state, it won't require any money for us. But then you can see what's on there. We had talked about the airfield crack and pavement markings, and that we probably would need more work and just crack sealing this trip around. And so that was factored into that as well, but, yeah, we're supposed to be gathering, just not to get way off topic, but, information on the hangar wait list, which we don't collect. We just say we don't have any business in that, that's privately held, but
Right.
FAA wants us to maintain a list of people that want hangars, which seems a little bizarre to me. And then we are due for consultant selection. So they'll have to provide.
But all of this gets back to your question, which is, are we better off with someone outside or someone with Gale? And I think, from my perspective, the answer to that is, I don't think it really matters. I think what really does matter is what we set for priorities in the plan and how, in a new plan, and how we deal with the priorities we have in the existing plan.
I mean, this is a lot of complex information here, complex projects. And you're gonna have to have an engineer, civil engineer to supervise work like this, draw plans, specifications, things, materials lists, things like that.
And this, you know, these programs and projects are already slated. And a lot of the planning's already been done.
Right.
So it isn't like you're gonna hire somebody now to do a grant for the lighting, that's already done.
Right.
I mean, it goes out for years, literally, so. When would the next grant be that somebody else could work on?
Well, this looks like it goes out to 2030, so we're talking about any subsequent grants would be past 2030.
Right.
So these grants have all been approved?
Well, no, not the money.
The
The
grant is
project.
approved on an annual basis. I think the other thing that's worth noting is that, what is it, like 13% it fluctuates, but there's a margin that they can charge over their actuals. So if they put Glenn on a project, Glenn drags his feet, I suppose after they can earn money, but other than that, there's a margin that's approved
Okay,
by the feds, and if they exceed, they're not allowed to exceed that.
okay, so it looks to me like everybody, majority agree we should just stay with Gale.
That's
Well,
what I.
no, I don't. We should stay with the present engineering firm, but at some point in time, we have to make a decision as to whether Gale will continue with us, is that right?
When does that come up?
And
Now,
and that question is a totally separate question. As to whether we stay with Gale or whether we look at
Another firm that does the same work.
that does the exact same work and charges the same amount of money,
Yeah.
and it's all the same, it's just different
Richard,
people.
are there, or Sean, are there many competitors to Gale in our area?
There are a number of consultants, and I work with all of them on the advocacy circuit all across New England, so. There's probably at least 4 or 5 that I run into on a regular basis here in New England.
Could you give us a list of those people and contact?
I certainly can, but I want to caveat that that's not my expertise, so.
I understand, but just so we know who they're.
Since a lot of those people know me, that's why I'm
Yeah,
caveat.
but Gail is the third one that we've had in my tenure at the airport.
And they all know when your contract runs out, so
Absolutely.
they're all gonna be, you know,
Contacting us.
politicking to get you to hire
You
them.
know, we had Stan Tech.
They'll be
we had,
talking
well, Gail, and then Stan Tech, and before that was Dufresne,
Your friend Henry.
Henry.
That's amazing.
I mean,
Best.
Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of them out there.
Does that go out to bid or does it?
Yes and no. You have the ability to bypass that. We had a pretty in-depth discussion the last time. And that's when we got Matt as our point of contact. Because there was a question of us deciding to go, because of inconsistent programming.
Or they were changing project managers from item to item, is it doing the work out there?
Let's see, their performance dictated their future with the organization, which then impacted us
Yeah.
in how we manage through our project. So. It's the kind of way I can put that.
I think you did very well.
That was extremely difficult.
I can do it every time.
Yeah.
So that's something that needs to be looked at now.
Yeah, DOT flagged us on that when we got together with them last month, and it's just a matter of getting people off, because Gail will assist us in this. They'll get us set up so that we can run the process of deciding to keep them or replace them.
I mean, you could always hire this person from Sanford just to give us information on what grants are available, how much he charges, you know, what's the scope of her work compared to what the engineers do.
Okay, I'll request that and share it next month.
Yeah, I just think that would be a good piece of information to have.
I have one question for you that has nothing to do with what we've been talking about, and that is there any progress nationally or statewide on the issue of a second runway?
Yes and no. So, this has been an issue that AOPA has been working for a number of years. And the short of it is the FAA is trying to make the most out of its money. So there was a conversation earlier, when your revenue stays the same and everything gets more expensive, obviously you can do less things with your money, and the FAA was running into that. With the most recent FAA reauthorization, there was about $1 billion added to overall AIP. Most of that was intended to be relegated for the general aviation airports, at least a large chunk of that. And that was part of that effort, but the FAA still has a pavement problem where, based on the letter of the FAA's guidance, is what dictates whether an airport remains eligible for its crosswind use. Now, what we've been trying to get the FAA to move off of is, the guidance is fine for new crosswind, but for existing pavement, again, as individuals, the FAA personnel, they know, you know, we're not building new airports. We're not, for the most part, not building new runways. So it would be a tragic loss to lose those, because we're never gonna get them back. And so they understand that, staff understands that, and that's what we were trying to move to, is a new understanding of existing versus new. The guidance is great for new, but for existing, you know, the critical aircraft, if your critical aircraft is probably what, King Air or
Right.
something along those
King.
lines. That's not gonna primarily be using your crosswind runway in most airports. And this, I guess it might, because it's about 4,000 feet.
Same length, yeah.
But traditionally, your crosswind runway is not gonna be the same utility as your primary. And so your critical aircraft is not necessarily the best gauge of whether that crosswind runway is really providing adequate coverage for the aircraft that need it. And again, as individuals, as departments, the FAA understands that. Their challenge is the bureaucracy and the policy that they're trying to deal with. So they're trying to get some movement on that for the most part. There has been no official change, to answer your question. So it still boils down to an airport sponsor's willingness and ability to fund the crosswind runway as improvements are needed when it's officially no longer eligible. What has been said of the crosswind here?
Well, I'm the newest member of the group here, But it seems to me like our crosswind runway is essential. I mean, half the time you wouldn't be able to fly.
Sure. Well, I mean, do you know what the most recent wind study shows?
There was a wind study many years ago, and it was a long time, and used Waterville information. Cause there was talk way back about shutting the runway down, and that data from Waterville said that runway should stay open because of the amount of activity on it during certain times of the year.
Okay, well, that's certainly the justification that you want to give evidence to when the FAA starts to question it. But they wouldn't be questioning it unless there was an updated wind study.
Well,
that's-
yeah, but what I understand is that they've shut down how many airports? 9 or 12 or
I think the number was 13 or 14.
13
And
and
they
14
pulled
airports.
back on some of them.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
have
that's-
softened in the application of. the
Oh, they have
policy.
pulled back?
Yes.
Not for us. For like 3 or 4 years.
So- would it be to our advantage to have a crosswind study done?
Well, they would require that as a function of the process before to determine your eligibility for whether or not they'll repay it or reconstruct it. So I imagine sometime in the next 3 years, you're probably due for repaving and depressment.
Well, slated right here, in 29. And they've forced us to, we can't present this document to FAA. They won't see this document
Gotcha.
because they won't review it if that's on the list.
Right, so that's usually a part of that overall project is, again, determining your eligibility, which is a function of how often is it used and by what aircraft. Again, the fact that you have a full length, full size crosswind runway, I imagine your King Airs are using it, which is your critical aircraft, which probably serves for an easier justification than a lot of these other coastal New England airports have had the ability to do.
I just think it would be a tragic loss. We'll lose our crosswind.
And 99% of airports would agree with you that
Yeah.
there's a tragic loss for the group that uses it. But again, that's where policy versus pragmatism.
It does have an LPV approach to it also.
Okay.
So it does help.
So,
Yes.
I probably just missed it, so what are the actions that we need to take to not do this?
Usage is the big thing, documented use, which I imagine you have, the guard system up. At least when it's working, you probably have an indication of what that usage is and who's using it. Certainly the FAA has that through the approach. How low does that LPV get you?
It's circling approach, it's not
Okay.
900 feet.
Okay, well, so they probably got all the.
400?
Yeah.
103.
One is 800. One's 800, oh no, one's 1,000 or 1,100 and one's 400. But I forget which one.
03 would be the higher one.
So there's two components, there's the usage, but it's the wind coverage, so, the way it is if your primary runway provides you, I think it's 90% wind coverage. Or is sufficient 90% of the time, then you're not eligible for a crosswind runway, so if your wind is such that your primary runway does not cover you 90% of the time, then presumably you're eligible. Again, contingent, but that's all based on the critical aircraft, so that's where I say it's a challenge, because crosswind to King Air is very different than to the bids. Sure. We were talking about earlier, so that's your challenge, so again, documenting that is the key thing.
So we need to tell Life Flight to use 03 a whole bunch more.
But it sounds like it's automatically documented.
Well, if Life Flight the only King Air that's using it, I mean, I imagine most King Airs are flying around with ADS-B.
Well, they've got a full
Yeah,
house.
so-
There's a Pilatus that comes in frequently and,
Okay,
and, the air ambulance King Air.
Yeah.
Comes in all the time, so.
so all those aircraft are equipped with ADS-B,
ADS.
so it's tracked and it's recorded, it's just a function of getting that data, which again, your guard system would have that for the most part. But the FAA's data would likely have that too, because those aircraft are, coming in with air traffic control, at least to the point that they transition into the CTRF.
Right. So I guess the takeaway I get from this is, for us, whenever we have the opportunity to use those runways, to use them. If we have a choice, let's use that one.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
yeah, that is a good idea.
I use that approach a lot. in Training.
So if the FAA won't look at this with that on there, how do you get it back on there? I mean, how do you even get them to look at the usage of the
We bring it up in every meeting,
front?
and the congressional delegation is supposed to be bringing it up with them in every meeting that they have. It's just been difficult to get traction because nothing's been cheaper, our entitlements have not really increased, and it's the thinning of the herd is what I would argue.
So if that runway gets used more and then you keep bringing it up, that,
Yeah, yes, theoretically, we've got our fair share of obstacles because base aircraft is down. Even though it may not be, people aren't reporting this being here, our ups and downs are flat. You know, there's no demonstrated growth in activity at the airport in terms of, what technical word I'm supposed to be looking for here.
Operations.
Thank you. The ups and downs. Number of operations is flat, if not down slightly. And so those are things that they're looking at when they talk about this.
Moving on, if I may, one of the things that when Sean did a tour of the airport, he asked, what's the possibility of extending the runway to 5,000 feet? Because 5,000 feet is the magic number for most corporate jets. And if you can entice them to come here with a runway that's long enough, that changes the dynamics considerably. I didn't really know the answer to that. I know it's a major project, but I just wanted to throw it out there and see what the situation is. Do we have enough real estate?
Yeah, that would be my first question.
Well, you don't have it on the dump end.
No, you do on the other, you do on the other.
Yeah.
There was at one point talk about moving the runway up 500 feet and expanding it to 5,000. Remember, that was quite a while ago.
So there is the real estate there. In your experience, Sean, when that's been done, how fruitful was it? I mean, it's pretty big project, big investment. How fruitful has it been?
For many airports, it can be very fruitful because when you open yourself up to receiving turbine traffic, you open yourself up for jet fuel sales, and that's where you're gonna make more money than on avgas. The caveat though is those people flying in the jets have to have a reason for being here. So in most cases, there is a reason, but you have to find it and connect it back to the airport. This is kind of a throwaway suggestion, but if you don't already, you really wanna be working with your town's marketing department and and your chamber of commerce. I imagine you probably work with regularly, but from the airport's perspective, you want to connect that back to the chamber of commerce and any industry you have, you know, in the greater area. Because that's gonna be what drives the need. Although it's also that sugar loaf, so that's another
opportunity of your study to figure out if that runway could be extended 1,000.
would. Now, just as food for thought, that study may or may not be eligible based on your current critical aircraft and activity. So therein lies the additional challenge to do that planning study. But that's the sort of thing where, again, your consultant, whether it's Gail or someone else, would be able to provide you better insight on what that process would be.
Like you said, something to look into, if not the highest priority. At this point.
That brings up a question. I've heard several people talk about, we ought to put Jet A in. If we put J in, I'll get it up, and would we get any turbine traffic in here with a 4,000-foot runway to make it worth our while to sell the fuel and make money?
I mean, that's hard to say. Do you have anybody that's called to say, I'd like to fly in there, but you don't have fuel to service me? That's a good point. And do you have any jet traffic that's coming in now, light jets that are coming in and dropping off and going?
I don't think so.
We have in the past had jets come in.
Well, yeah, you have the carriers and the
Turbines.
They burn jet.
Yeah.
That's jet.
I guess that's a question to those operators. No, Life Flight's probably a little different because they're coming out of Angler for the most part, the King Air is, but that would be the question to those operators. If we had fuel available, would you buy it? And over the course of a year, how much do you think you buy?
And that's why you need a marketing in. to go out and find out.
Um,
And there are some helicopters that would stop.
That's right.
There is.
and, you know, there's other ways to sort of skin that cat. There is a helicopter school based at Sanford. I think it's Pine Tree Helicopters. Could be wrong on their name, but, I don't know if they have any turbine helicopters, but if they do, you know, this is the type of distance where they might be bringing up a lot of their students, so it's a question. And one place to connect to those people is through the Maine Aeronautical Advisory Board. So keep that in mind. That's another resource to you that also connects you to other airport managers and the other consultants that frequently. And
Everybody's quit,
what's that?
everybody's quit.
Yeah.
On that same vein, you cover 13 states?
I do.
We had a conversation, three of us, with Sean this afternoon. Is there anything obvious that we're missing that we should or could do to increase revenue for the airport? From what you've seen and heard?
Yeah, so it was, I would say positive in the big scheme that it sounds like the hangar lease or the ground lease revenues have increased. I would add, it sounds like they're only on 1-year leases. And I would note that for someone that's investing in a structure, they're buying the structure, hopefully they're gonna keep it up to date. That's scary from my
The
perspective.
lease is a 25-year,
Yeah, I thought.
and it extends automatically.
Oh, okay, I
And
apologize.
I gave you the wrong, Richard, how long are the leases?
I think it's 20-year, and then it extends by.
Extends to by 5,
Okay,
that's right.
I apologize.
No, I apologize, I gave you the wrong information.
Okay, well, that takes out that
Oh, it's
comment.
just 25.
My lease is 1 year because Richard knows
Because
me.
it would scare all of us.
Yeah, I would have thought so, but, never mind. Strike the prior chunk.
Well, that's fine.
Is there anything else that you think we're obviously missing?
Again, from an obvious standpoint, no, I see an airport that has, a lot of opportunity. The challenge that you face is what every other general aviation airport across the England and really the country is facing is how do I generate more activity? So I guess the less obvious things that I would recommend are trying to find a commercial aeronautical business that's willing to set up shop here. One, they're gonna pay a higher lease rate to the airport. Two, they're gonna generate activity, which is gonna be fuel sales, and operations, which is good, obviously, for your eligibility for your other projects, keeping your crossing runway, generating demand for the airport, which, hopefully also helps sell the value of the airport to the community as they see it being used.
Richard, are there any incentives that could be offered to an aviation related business to get them to come here?
We've talked about that at a mile high level, but we haven't been able to really get anybody to want to come in. Because the market's so difficult right now, because we're 4 miles off from Route 2, 50 miles off from 95 beyond that, and then you've got Augusta and Waterville. So these people are gonna come in and invest big money. They wanna be able to afford it, and they wanna have access to services, they're closer.
I think what he was referring to, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a aviation related business that'll bring planes here to have their airplanes come in for annual inspection or have their radios updated, that sort of thing. So I don't think the vehicular logistics would be a factor.
So we can do that, a lot of what we have is building inventory houses. You know, so what do we have for inventory or prospective inventory that could house an outfit like that?
And if there was an aviation related fixture airplane shop here, a lot of people, a lot of pilots on the field would be very happy about that, because there's no mechanic on that field anywhere.
What I would add, I guess as a comment to the avionics thing, that is, maintenance is needed everywhere. The challenge for maintenance is, as you know, people tend to go to the same person. So if you're already established at another shop, such as in Pittsfield or elsewhere in the state, they tend to continue to go to those individuals. That said, avionics is even more dire need than maintenance. I mean, you gotta wait a year to retrofit your aircraft. And so there's definitely an opportunity there. People will fly for that. not just from Maine, but from elsewhere in New England. Who doesn't want to come to Maine anyway? So to have an excuse to fly here and do that, I think that's an opportunity for you, but yes, absolutely, the challenge is, you don't have ready, it doesn't seem you have ready-made infrastructure beyond the hangars that exist. So again, using the hangars that exist, your best bet is to ask somebody who's already in that industry, whether it's another mechanic in the state or a professional, and say, would this work for somebody? Preferably not somebody you're gonna compete with location wise, but avionics, I think, is your certainly a prime opportunity in terms of demand.
So Ken, in Pittsfield, all the people that go to Curtis to have work done, does that work out for them? You know,
Does it work out for?
well, in other words, it's a revenue, it's a business, it generates revenue.
Yep.
They'll come in from all over the place to have them work on their aircraft.
They do?
Sure. So we need something like that.
That would be great.
You have to find somebody that people would trust. You have to be an already established business that's probably branching out a little bit.
Yep.
But
Would a tip be available if we were to try to recruit some company to come here and build a hangar and
You could shelter any investment. Just gonna be sizable enough to make funding it for a while.
I would offer though, to the extent that the airport can own the infrastructure, that's better for revenue for the airport in the long run. It's certainly a headache because the airport's then responsible for taking care of the infrastructure, but it's just the other side of that coin. All pilots want to own their own hangars, but it's really better in most cases that I see across the country for the sponsor to own hangars, just from the revenue perspective.
well, because it gives you control over the fluctuations in the rent, in the ground. Right? Isn't that the-
Yeah, and I think also the process of evicting somebody.
exactly.
If we own the hangars out there, right, we'd probably be evicting 20 hangar owners right now.
Yeah, but do we,
Because that-
do we wanna get in the hangar owning business or just the ground lease business?
Well, the in terms of individual hangars, I think you leave things the way they are. The only question in my mind is whether or not you do what Pittsfield has done, and that is the town owns a hangar that it uses to lease to commercial aviation business.
So is that the,
So Curtis's hangars are on private land
Yeah,
owned by Curtis.
yeah. But didn't they build one? Didn't
They
the town?
built a nested hangars, T hangar, 6 hangars for $2.2 million,
The town,
the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, town, state money.
yeah.
and
But-
all those
but-
are leased out?
But
Oh, yeah,
They use FAA involvement.
FAA.
FAA money.
Oh, yeah, that's why it's so much money.
Yeah, that's.
But if we did it specifically for a business,
Right,
avionics business or some business, and we say, we go to some company and say, look, you put a facility, you come to our airport and we'll build a building and we'll give you a sweetheart deal on rental. As long as you know that we'll kick you out if you don't work out the way we want to do.
Well, if you give them a sweetheart deal, what's the benefit to the town?
Well, the benefit to the town is you're getting the aircraft in and out on the runways, you're getting the fuel sales. You will get some tax revenue.
Yeah,
You'll get some tax revenue.
tie down fees.
You get tie down fees, you get the traffic. And that has a way of feeding on itself and increasing. Well, now more people, hey, that's a nice little airport, I think I'd like to have my plane there. I mean, it's,
Well, I would personally, I would tell you, I agree 100%. as far as the avionics go, because there's only one authorized avionics shop in the state. And otherwise you have to go to New Hampshire or you have to go to Vermont.
Isn't Bangor?
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, there is one.
Curtis is.
No, he's not.
He's
He's
not.
not. I assure you he's not. He might install some radios, but he's not an avionics shop. I tell you that for a fact.
Interesting.
So, I have no, I would like to, if everyone agrees, I'll do a little research with the avionics shops I know out of state, see if they would have any interest in opening up a satellite here. And if there's any interest, then Richard, I'll come back to you and say, what can the town offer as an incentive? Anybody disagree with that?
Well, you gotta get somebody who wants to come here, so you have to give them incentive of some kind. Because they don't wanna come here and lose money, they wanna come here and make money, and we want them to make money.
Well, I just recently had avionics work done and I called 3 shops and 2 shops said, yeah, I'll be happy to do it. We can't do it for a month. So the 3rd shop took it in a week. But so the point here is that if they had a satellite, it's a second facility and a second group of people that they have. So instead of losing me, which they did, they said, oh yeah, go over to Norwich Walk and we'll take care of it.
Yeah, the trick to that is it gets complicated because the shop may want to set up shop here, but do we have any qualified people that they can hire? And if not, will there be a pool of people that will be willing to move here to do that?
I don't think that would be the shop's responsibility to.
Well, yeah,
import.
but that's part of their thinking when they decide whether to go there or not. Is anybody up there that can do that?
Yeah, well, I don't think we could address that, say, oh yeah, we have 11 elected avionics technicians that live
Yeah,
in town
I
that
mean,
look for jobs.
they would wanna pick their own employees anyway.
Oh,
If you wanna go, to me, if you wanna go gather some information, I think it's a great idea.
I do
I'm
too.
all for it.
I would add, that's part of the marketing thing that, is, I mean, maybe there already is, speaking of the term, but is there some sort of marketing have available of the airport? Whether it's to give to Chamber of Commerce or give to a potential avionics shop or mechanics.
I don't think we have
Say,
any.
this is what our airport is, with a nice picture of your western view there, kind of in the background, and we've got, 43 based aircraft. We receive aircraft up to King Airs and Pilatus that come in on occasion. We would like to advance the airport to a 5,000-foot runway. Again, these are the carrots that you want to put out as part of that marketing thing, rather than, hey, we're an airport that, you want to come work at here.
So do we need to hire a marketing person to do something like that?
No, I think that that's something that, whether it's a child or grandchild that has any work with, paint on their computer can probably create you something, but,
Does it-
Chamber of Commerce have, I don't want to say consultants, but liaisons that help businesses kind of create.
But there's that point too, if people are always trying to sell me things, and some people come with a piece of junk, little, folder like that flips out and it's got, doesn't really have much in it. And others come with a much more substantial resume of the work that they've done, and you get a much better feeling from it. You see it visually, right, a person to talk to.
Well, my initial thought on this is something much more basic, and that is I'm gonna pick up the phone and call the 2 shops that I personally know and say, hey, the town is interested in having business brought in, we're looking for an avionics shop, would you be interested? Just sort of open the door that way and see.
Sure.
And then if the door opens, then Richard, I'll come back to you and say, we need to get somebody in there that knows a whole lot more than I do of what the town can offer.
Yeah, but when you call these people, don't you need something to give them?
I don't think so. I'm basing it on my relationship with who I know.
Oh, okay.
Just as it relates to the question about employment, I would just note, there is through the University of Maine, Augusta, at Brunswick, they have a maintenance program, so a mechanic shop, that is the biggest challenge for maintenance right now, is finding skilled work, so just important to know that in the background, hey, we have a mechanic school right here in Maine. You know, which means kids from Maine potentially looking for jobs in Maine, that's an opportunity for them. So I don't think, they probably have avionics course as a part of the A and P program, but I don't know how.
How's that, avionics school?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure.
Okay,
what
so
that looks like.
I'll put some feelers out. I'll let you know next month if anybody shows any interest.
I'll reach out to the Chamber of Commerce and ask about marketing advice or potential consultant that could come in and. You know, whether it's a double-sided brochure that people can grab and go, anything you can drop in a different airport. Not at a high cost, and see if I get a cost estimate for what they could propose for us. And maybe we could reapproach TIF or something like that about the marketing.
I'd like to go back to Jet A for just a second. In your opinion, do you think it's worth our while to look into putting Jet A at North York?
Right, I certainly think it's worth your while to look into it,
That's, so,
definitely.
okay, I think we ought to do it, and then we.
Rough figures, how big of an expense is that? Is it 250,000, a million?
I've heard all kinds of stories.
You have any idea? Sean?
I don't, I'd have to.
There's even one about putting a truck out there
Planning.
with Jet A in it. And then I heard, well, no, you gotta have someone to pump it. But yet Greenville has it, and they don't have anyone on off hours and weekends. They pump their own. I just say, I wonder if we need more information, but
So,
is that an opportunity?
to combine the last two conversations, I mean, that's something that could be a pull for a maintenance shop. You know, they wanna make money off the fuel. And it's kind of a two-part business, then they're managing fuel, probably providing the insurance for it and whatever else,
Yeah.
but.
And I'm sure there could be some sort of revenue sharing
Right.
or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in 2022, we had design and permit a fuel farm only for Jet A.
Yep.
So this is the addition of that fuel. The design and permitting for that was estimated in 22 at 155,000.
Yep.
And the construction of that at the time was estimated at 480,000.
So 600.
600,000.
For $2022.
But you go, at least it used to be at Bangor, you get fuel out of a fuel truck. Is it, I don't know, to me, we just ought to find out what we can and can't do and either move ahead or say no, forget it.
Belfast put in general.
Right.
They're basically in the same boat we are.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to talk to
Yeah.
them. They've done it.
Do
I don't know how much they,
do we as a group wanna have a couple of people go get some information together?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Well,
Who-
first of all, we need to know what it costs,
And
and then some estimate of what we're gonna get out of it.
that might be, that might be hard to come by, but I'd like to me, I'd like to know what it, at least what it would cost.
Yeah.
And then yes, you gotta figure out the marketing, but just to say no. Don't tell me why we can't do it, tell me how we're gonna do it, if it's worth doing. But I'd at least like to know up front. This is what it would take to put it in, and then Ken's right, we get King Airs and we get turbine aircraft in out there. And maybe if they knew we had fuel and we were a little cheaper than other places, they might come get it. And it ties in to anything to do with a shop going in out there too.
You know, this is an area I don't have any expertise in, but the thought of having a fuel truck. We already have a staff member at the airport so many hours a day. A lot of airports have an emergency number. You call this number and for $200 more, somebody will come out at night or anytime you want and pump your fuel for you. So maybe that's a sort of a quick and dirty way to provide jet aid.
Have you been in Greenville lately?
yeah, I have, but
Is it Green, oh, no, Greenville is self-serve.
Right.
They're doing it in a tank, but it's self-serve. I just think we'll look into it and then we either do something or we walk away from it. And so,
it's another item that we ought to look at.
who wants to go look at it? And let's get a couple of people or three or whatever and go look at it.
You and I wanna do that?
Pardon?
You and I wanna do that?
I'm with you.
Okay.
Where do you go to look at it?
I don't know.
Belfast.
Belfast?
Belfast, just put one in.
That's right.
A couple years ago, for the same reason we're talking about.
Do you know the airport manager out there?
I do,
You do?
I do.
Oh, okay, all right. Somebody knows the guy.
I know,
Yeah. All right. I'm on.
I do, had this conversation with him within the last year.
I
We'll
don't
do it and get back at the next meeting then.
The prospects of San Helen Park or something like that. Kind of went out the wayside because your margins are eaten up because the volume of trucking.
Yep.
So you wanna buy,
You're right.
you're gonna go buy it Waterville, at Waterville price and
Yeah.
you're not making money.
Right, no.
It becomes a convenience and that's not what we're looking for.
Got it.
We're looking to,
Yeah.
so it's really about the fuel farm.
Yeah.
Is it productive?
Just. Well, anybody else wanna go? We'll go look in a month or so.
Well, I'm happy to help in any way I can. I think you two probably have the most
Fine.
knowledge about it. But if you want an uninformed opinion, I'll be happy to give it to you.
I shot my mouth off, so I can't very well say no.
It's like Don King.
What other questions do we have for Sean?
You had asked, some things that can be done. We've talked about some of the bigger things. I think some of the smaller things, events, summertime, maybe we're late to plan one for this year, but, having an event is a way to. You're all pilots, you all look for excuses to fly, so having an event for pilots to fly to is an excuse to sell more fuel. Or at least I think.
Like, breakfast,
Yeah.
pancake breakfast.
Pancake breakfast, or even an open house community event, that also allows the double benefit of bringing the community into the airport so they can maybe touch an airplane instead of a touch a truck type thing.
We have a plan every.
Oh, you do?
We used to fill that terminal building on Sunday with breakfast, and we'd have all kinds of planes. I mean, I've seen that building so crowded, there were people upstairs for the breakfast. Well, then we did,
Yeah.
and there'd be there'd be all kinds of planes come in.
But you know,
And people drive in, so we're getting the locals to come.
I'm not sure if this is where you were going, but it crossed my, I think it was. But to bring in the community, there's a vendor that sells tractors and lawnmowers. There's a real estate broker in town. Maybe we could bring them in. They could have a booth. And, if somebody wants to buy some real estate in Norwich Walk, or someone's looking to buy a zero turn. And that way, it's sort of double dipping, we do what we want, we're doing what our objective is to bring the town in and want them to like us a little bit more and doing something for them. What do you think about that, Richard?
So my first question is who's organizing it? But the second one.
You're really good at it.
Got my full-time job. The reality of it, like we have vendors and pop-ups and things like that, and I'm not in the business of wasting people's time. And I feel like if we brought parties out to showcase their equipment on a one-off as kind of an event, thinking that pilots are gonna come and fly to look at lawnmowers and then fly back. I don't think
I don't think it would fly, no pun intended.
right, cause you're gonna fly in to go see the lawnmower, but then you gotta get your lawnmower.
You're gonna buy it
Is it gonna
locally.
come at a special discount or anything like that? Something like that, I don't see.
It's a fold up. It's a
Right.
fold up lawnmower. It goes right, right,
But there's usually.
right in the baggage.
There's the non-flying public coming in to see the airport, and you're giving your local businesses a chance to really advertise to your public members. But then you have an aeronautical side is, in whether you're giving Young Eagles flights, or if you have any EAA members here. Or, Life Flight will come and put their King Air, or even one of the helicopters down if they're not active that day, and let the community go through and see it. So there's that value. And then again, pilots just look for excuses to fly, so they're happy to do that. And in most cases, they'll top their tanks off if they've, flown more than 45 minutes. So I agree with you though, the pilots aren't gonna fly in to necessarily care about the local businesses, but again, it's both sides of the fence coming together.
So I organize one day a year, and that's a lot.
I,
Don't work months. April, maybe.
but I apologize, I didn't realize you already had an event. When do you do that?
What month did we do that?
That day is gonna be August 31st this year.
Okay. Good weekend.
Anything else for Sean? Before we move
No,
on?
this has been exciting.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's been great.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome.
You're welcome to stay if you want, as I said, if you wanna sit here while we go through the rest of it.
Sure,
Welcome.
happy to hang around for a little while.
Okay, the next was Charlie, on the electrical system law.
Okay, I'll make it real quick, but, the electrical system in Maine, had changed radically in the year 2000. And you gotta know a little bit of history in order to understand the electric system in Maine. The turn of the century, last century, early 1900s, there were lots of small utility companies popping up with the electrification of the state of Maine. And there were actually hundreds of them. Many of them were owned by municipalities, many of them were owned by private individuals. One of those companies was a small company in Oakland called Central Maine Power Company. And one of them was a municipal company originally in Bangor called Bangor Hydro. And then in Aroostook County was Community Service. They own the telephone company, they own the power company, lots of stuff. So they started buying these small companies one by one. And obviously Central Maine Power Company grew to the point where it now has all of Central Maine and Southern Maine. Bangor Hydro, which is now been purchased by Versant, owned all of the Bangor area, Penobscot County, Hancock County, Washington County, all down east. And then Maine Community Service was in Aroostook County. And interestingly enough, not until a year ago, they were never connected to the rest of the state of Maine. They were totally separate. It was an 18-mile gap. They bought all their power from New Brunswick. But the bottom line is those companies, three basic companies, CMP, Bangor Hydro, and Maine Public Service, owned and operated everything. And they sold power. They built the lines, they built the transmission lines, and they sold power. They were guaranteed a return on their investment, so they were governed by the Maine PUC, Public Utilities Commission, and they were entitled to reimbursement for all of their costs, plus a guaranteed profit, anywhere from 5 to 12%, depending upon the year. So they were guaranteed a profit. When the oil crunch hit in the 1970s and 80s, and electricity usage kind of really has been growing, particularly because of stuff like this. The demand for power grew, particularly during peak times when there were lots and lots of power being used. So Central Maine Power Company, Bangor Hydro, all of the companies entered into large contracts with private generators to buy power. So they would, I don't know if you remember, but there were a lot of biomass plants that were built all over the state. They were all privately owned, and they would sell their power to CMP or Bangor Hydro on a contract. And they would only provide the power when the return on their investment was high enough so they'd make a tremendous amount of profit. Well, CMP was entering into all these contracts and Bangor Hydro. All the companies were entering into all these contracts, and they didn't care what they cost, because they were entitled to reimbursement for all of their costs plus a profit. And so the net result of that is that the people of the state of Maine had the highest electric rates of any state in the country. Now, part of that is skewed by the fact that in the South, there's the Tennessee Valley Authority, owned by, it's a quasi-governmental entity that subsidizes power. The Bonneville Power Grid in the West, there were all these government sponsored that were making the rates artificially low for a lot of people. We didn't have that benefit, but we also had a system that did not incentivize companies to save any money or to watch out for the ratepayers. So we were paying a lot. So in 1998, I spent a year of my life in the legislature crafting a change to the way that the electric grid works. And it's a lot more complicated than what I'm telling you. I'm giving you the short, quick,
Please do.
easy version. But the bottom line is, we separated two things. We separated the delivery of power from the generation of power. So in fact, now Central Maine Power Company, Versant, which purchased both Bangor Hydro and Maine Public Service, Versant and CMP, their only function is to deliver power. They do it through what's known as they are what is known as a T&D, transmission and distribution. They transmit power and they distribute power. And they are entitled to charge for that service. And they charge for that service at a rate that the PUC approves on a 1 or 2 year basis, depending upon how the PUC wants to put out the bids. But they are again entitled to their cost plus their profit. So, but the only thing that they do is put up the powers and put up the poles and the lines, and they sell delivery services. It's one of the reasons why they wanted to build what they call the clean energy corridor. That's a lot more transmission that they get paid for. But in any event, that's all they do. Now, the power itself, the original idea that we had was that people would go out and shop for their power. Well, that didn't work out. And it didn't work out because people didn't understand what we were doing. They didn't understand the system and they didn't know where to shop for power. They didn't know how to shop for power. So the bottom line is, what happened is the PUC said, we will put out a bid every couple of years for what's known as the standard offer. And we will contract with a company that will provide the power to any user in the state that doesn't buy their own power. So if you want to go out right now and buy your own power from somebody, you can do that. But if you don't, and you just say, I just want power, then you get your power from the standard offer. So the bottom line for power purposes of what we're talking about is you can't sell the power to CMP. CMP doesn't buy power. They were required to sell all of their generating facilities. They don't own any generation. They don't own any power. They only own poles and lines. And that's what they do. Okay? So the companies that are, the solar companies that are coming in are generators. They generate power. They're selling it to larger companies, basically the company that gets the standard offer to sell to the state of Maine. Those companies sell their power into the grid, and that company is the one that puts in the bid to the state of Maine and sells you all their power. So right now, you would have to sell, they would have to sell to private companies that produce and sell power, not CMP. Now, when I started talking about this, I told you that there were a whole bunch of small companies all over the state, hundreds of them, and they all started selling power in their communities. There are 13 of those still left. They are separate power companies, in most cases owned by municipalities, that never sold to CMP or Bangor Hydro. And they have stayed as separate companies from the beginning. Madison Electric, Holton Water Company, Kennebunk Power and Light, Eastern Maine Electric Cooperative in Calais. There's 13 of them. They're separate companies. When we wrote the legislation, we did not require them to make the split. So those companies, because A, their costs were already about half of what CMP's were, and they weren't entering into these terrible contracts that like CMP was. So we let them stay as separate little companies that not only transmit power, but also manufacture power and sell power. So, what does this all mean for us? Madison Electric is one of those separate entities that has the ability to be able to transmit power, but also produce power and sell power. They have no interest. They already have their generating facilities. They have no interest in acquiring additional generation. They have a solar field. They have the hydropower at the old Madison mill. They have enough generation to be able to satisfy their customers. They're not interested in buying more power. Okay. So a solar operator at the airport would be within Madison Electric's territory. And Madison Electric gets to say who they're going to buy from, and they don't want to buy any power. So there's not a ready market for that. The only thing that we could do would be to try to sell it to try to sell the power to another entity. A solar company would come in and build that, and they would sell their power, but they would have to use CMP's lines. Or if Madison Electric would allow us to use their lines to transmit to CMP, then they could get it onto the grid. But the point I'm making is there's two different kinds of entities you're dealing with here. Madison Electric, which buys and sells power and has no interest in a solar farm. Or Central Maine Power Company, which is only a transmitter. And so the solar company would use their lines to sell their power to a larger producer. Have I got everybody totally confused?
No, that was very good.
Yeah, that's-
So the farmer up by Gifford's Ice Cream that has turned his farm into a solar field, who's he selling it to?
That, he's not selling it at all. The solar company went to him and said, we'll lease your land.
Which solar?
Well, there's hundreds of them.
Okay.
There's hundreds of solar companies around. There have been in the past incentives for those solar companies to build solar facilities and sell their power. It's really actually quite complicated, but the bottom line is the state of Massachusetts and the state of Connecticut have programs which say that a certain percentage of their power has to come from renewable sources. So these companies, there's not enough renewable resources in Massachusetts or Connecticut. So they're coming up here, building solar fields and transmitting it across the grid to Connecticut, where it's sold for a premium price.
Whose lines are they using for transmission?
CMPs.
They pay them a cut?
CMP gets paid for transmission. Again, it's much more complicated. The physics of electricity is when electricity is generated, it's actually used at the first source out. So in other words, if you generate it here in this town, it's being used in this town. But from an economic point of view, it's being dumped into the grid. And so it's a commodity into the grid, and it's sold as more expensive power because it's renewable. It's sold down there.
Like credits, it's like energy credits.
It's a credit. It's a credit. So it's sold down in Connecticut. So it's not really transmitted. It's just dumped into the grid. And there's a grid operator, ISO New England, which which operates the grid, and they manage the, it's like they sit in this big room with a map, and they say, okay, take that power, send it over there, over there, go over there. So it's the bottom line is, for us, we're either gonna have to get a solar company to get CMP involved, because we're not gonna do anything with Madison Electric. Now, the only possible thing that we could do with Madison Electric is to work with them to use their lines to get it to CMP. Okay, and then CMP dumps it onto the grid. And
But there's no incentive for Madison Electric to do that.
there's no incentive for Madison Electric, not a significant incentive. And the other bottom line is, the state just changed the law in this last legislative session. It's just going into effect, so that many of the benefits to solar companies to set up solar projects are going to be curtailed significantly. And so you're not gonna see this growth in solar fields in the future that we've seen over the past 5 or 8 years. The incentives are not there. With the new clean energy corridor bringing power down to Massachusetts, that's actually DC power that's being brought from Hydro-Quebec. It's being brought in the form of DC power to Lewiston, where it's converted to AC power, and then it's being sent from Lewiston into the grid. And all of the credits for that green hydro power are going to Massachusetts.
I've already got a headache.
Well, I think the really good thing is that Sean shared with me, he just finished putting solar on his house, so he did it at the right time.
Well, he did do it, because as of December 31st this year, he won't, there are no further incentives for that, so he did it at the right time.
So, gist of this is,
Well, the bottom line for this whole thing is this. If we want a solar field here, we have to connect to Central Maine Power Company. Or we have to sell it to Madison Electric. Madison Electric has no interest in.
but wouldn't we use the provider to take care of that? Let the company that we
Yes,
let them deal with the logistics.
yes, but the reality of that is if I'm a solar operator and I can lease a field in Benton, and where CMP is already present, and I don't have to argue with CMP about capacity on the lines, building 3-phase lines to haul the power. If I don't have to do any of that, that's where I'm gonna put my field. I'm not gonna put my field at an airport where I'm gonna have to build. I'm not gonna have, I don't wanna build 3-phase lines for, 5 miles. It's not, there's no money there. So
the gist of this is, there's very little chance we'll be able to generate income from a solar farm on the airport.
the gist of this is that the key to this whole thing is Madison Electric. And if Madison Electric ever decides that they want power, then it becomes much more doable. But if we have to build the line, or the solar company has to build a line to connect the CMP, that cuts into their
Why
margin
does that
pretty
fall back
significantly.
onto Ricky?
I don't tell you just, I think
Thank you for that. That was really terrific.
Well,
Madison Electric might take power when the PCP plant starts up. Isn't that what you were talking about?
Oh,
Because they're gonna use-
when the facility of waste management
Starts
starts
that.
consuming its energy that's consumed on site, then it's possible that we could feed back into that
Right.
line, but that line's at capacity. That would require an agreement with waste management to
Right.
use the lines that they've installed. But I mean, the talk, and now it seems to have more validity, is that if Madison Electric wants more power, they're gonna build their own solar field and profit from that. As opposed to having it on somebody else's land that would be leased.
Well, I mean, this whole thing explains why Madison Electric isn't falling all over themselves to allow us to have a solar field. Because, I mean, they are a totally different kind of power company than Central Maine Power. So that's my story of staying.
So,
It was a good,
so just with a 2 or 3 sentence answer, unrelated to airport, as individuals, perhaps homeowners, does it behoove us to go look at those 13 companies to get our power, or is it negligible?
You can only buy power from those 13 companies if if you live within their territory.
You can go on to the PUC website and they'll have providers of electricity that you see in Brown, and there's probably a dozen of them.
Oh, yeah.
You can shop around, and there's some places that will have a fee if you break, they want you to purchase at this kilowatt, rate per kilowatt hour. And if you live them for 12 months, great, if you break, then there's sometimes a fee, sometimes there's not. You can shop that around, but
You can
standard offer, they're pretty competitive in the last 12 months.
The standard offer has been very competitive.
CMP standard.
Well, the PUC's
Oh,
standard offer has been
yeah.
very, very competitive. If you look at all of the other companies that are offering power, as Richard says, many of them want multi-year contracts, and they'll lock you in. And so if the price goes up, then that's really good, but if the price goes down, you're locked in.
Got it. Thank you.
We do shop rates at the airport. You don't usually buy standard offer electricity for airport expenses. It's not a huge amount.
So how many of those 13 do you get to choose from?
Well, no, the 13 are just separate power companies that not, separate utility companies. So they are, you know,
There's a transmission and generation.
that's right. What we're talking about, what Rich and I are talking about are, there are energy producers. And there's many of them that you can buy your power from individually. You don't have to take the standard offer. You can buy it from CN Brown, you can buy it from Constellation Energy, you can buy it from a whole bunch of different companies.
Thank you.
Anything else on this?
So to get to your point,
You
don't hold your breath waiting for a solar field.
You just burst my bubble. Okay, next, Bill.
yeah, yeah, I can tell you what I learned from my contact. I have a friend, 15 years worth, who was a lawyer, Revenue Mental in Bangor, and then about 7 or 8 years ago, she went to work in Versa in-house. Does every in-house counsel. So I drove up to Bangor one day and had lunch with her and talked about everything that we're talking about. The person is very interested in solar farms and whatever they get out of it. The key, what she told me was the most important thing, is the developer. They work with a stable of about 10 developers that build out these solar farms. And they come to Versant with a contract. And essentially, the developer just signs a 20-year lease with the landowner. And she warned me up one side and down the other about how many fly-by-night contractors there are that go out of business. It's a 20-year lease. What happens if they stop paying you and you have all this stuff there? You know, there's some risk to it. And they only work with people that they know. And those people go out and source a place to put a solar farm in. And then they prepare a contract that they enter into with the landowner, which here would be the airport. And then the airport doesn't get any percentage of the revenue from electricity generation.
It's just the land lease?
It's ground rent. It's ground rent. And they're all standardized at 20 years or so. And once again, the risk is something goes sideways during that 20-year period of time, the developer goes out of business, somebody declares bankruptcy, people start filing lawsuits, you know, it can be a mess. So it's her job to make sure that she has built-in protection, so none of these bad things happen to me. But they very much want to develop solar fields and get the energy from it. Now some of the stuff she was telling me was proprietary, so she didn't really tell me about it, but what they do with the electricity that comes out of those solar fields, I have no idea.
Yeah, see, they don't buy the power, they make their money on the transmission.
Yeah.
On the transmission of the power. And so the solar company has to enter into two contracts. They enter into a contract with Versant to build the lines and pay Versant for use of the lines. And then they have to enter into a contract with the New England grid, Pipes of New England, to sell the power into the.
Well, they somehow have come up with a system that these solar farms are profitable for them, beneficial to their business, helps their customer base. It generates extra electricity that we wouldn't have otherwise.
It does.
Yeah, but putting all that together requires somebody with sophistication and talent who's done it a bunch of times. So they have a very short list of developers that they work with, that they have used for a long period of time, and that they trust and they have a good relationship with. And so the developer potentially would come to our airport and see if a field could be built. And then if he could work something out with us, he would take that to Versant. And then they begin benefiting from it. We just get the ground rent.
Right, and it would be his responsibility to figure out if he could work with Central Maine Power's lines
Yeah, same.
or Madison Electric's lines or whatever.
Yeah, Versant wouldn't be a factor here because Versant, this is not Versant's territory.
No, I was just trying to explain how they do it, you know, that they've got a department set up to bring these things in and bring them online and they make money from it somehow.
Well, CMP has a department that sole job is to work with solar and wind developers to build the infrastructure. CMP and Versant have they are very, very happy to work with any developer that where the infrastructure has capacity and they've got the infrastructure in place. It gets real expensive if you have to start building multiple miles of three-phase line.
Yeah, now I didn't get into that with her.
Yeah.
They view that as the developer's responsibility initially to work out some sort of a deal so that everybody makes money off this solar farm. But Versant gets their cut. And they want to continue expanding this because there's all sorts of open land, you know, that can be used in Maine for things like this. They think it's a profitable deal. Now, whether that would benefit us in any way, I don't know the answer to that question, Charlie. But that's how it works. The owner of the ground, the owner of the land does not get any cut off any profit off selling or transmitting electricity. Owner of the ground just gets a rent.
Thank you for taking her lunch, and
Yeah.
Ken said he'd reimburse you for the lunch.
Yeah, okay, well.
So do we,
Yeah, I had a lobster roll, T-bone steak, 3 martinis, me too, those.
Not a problem.
so what's the group's feeling on this? Do we wanna pursue this any further? Leave it on the back burner?
I actually asked, Allison if she would give me names of the developers that they work with. That was definitely. They want them to themselves, and they're keeping them busy.
I mean, there's no harm in finding out if there's a developer that wants to do it.
I agree.
But I don't
Don't
think,
get your hopes up.
I don't think you should peg your hopes, for the airport's future on developers wanting to do that.
I was just trying to find out how that worked. I used to think that the ground. The person that owned the real estate got some sort of a slice of the electricity. Profit, but that's not the case, they just get ground.
Did she share with you at all what the cost per, or payment per acre was?
No. No.
I can tell you what they say water bill gets,
What?
and I've heard it from two different people, you've heard it too, haven't you? $55,000 a year.
For how many acres?
I don't know, that's all I know, they've got two sites at the airport,
So the airport makes 55,000 acres?
that's what I've been told.
I mean, it seems like if a reputable developer could come in and settle us up for us, and then we just get a payment of money every single month, guaranteed for 20 years. And they also agree to remove everything at the end of the 20-year period if the contract's in period.
Yeah.
As well.
So do we agree that we should take this further, or at least get some information?
I say, yeah.
Sure.
Okay, who's gonna own it?
So there's, my guess is there are consultants here in Maine that handle this sort of thing. I'll be happy to, I can call her up and ask her any question as long as it doesn't involve her giving
You're
me
tied up with them.
proprietary information.
Okay, so either one of you two should lead this. So, so
Charlie sounds more of an expert to me. But I can call her and,
Did you already have three separate companies come and look?
Mhm. I don't wanna be a pessimist about this,
Yeah,
but it's the realist,
What was
and I
it?
think we're wasting time,
what,
because we didn't even, when I first did it. We could have bid up the value of the land and say, okay, come in and tell us what you were gonna pay us, and we're gonna take the highest per acre lease. I didn't, I just said, hey, come in and look at it, tell me if you're interested in what you paid. Not a public bid or anything, they walked away, so I went and found somebody else, and the same result. And I did it again, and the same result, and it's just
You think,
add in the complexity of the geography.
you think it was all about the transmission lines?
It's not a cost effective project. Too far off, I
Wow.
mean, you're down here on Route 8, I mean, that was just in the Y, as you travel south on Route 8, it's not even a mile out there. That was almost too far off three-phase for it to be, and that, I mean, it was only 35 acres, so to say.
This was in the
So
past
the-
few years? Yeah,
This-
well, I retract my comment then, I think it's a waste of time.
that's what,
So now you don't have a job
Came
anymore.
out and said no,
I think, it-
yeah.
based on everything I've.
And the biggest obstacle was interconnection to central main power,
Yeah,
and that 404.5 mile good.
So are we saying enough?
I mean, somebody calls me, great, we'll tell them to go out to the airport, take a look at it, maybe not.
I think that the bottom line that we should take is that if, we should contact Madison Electric and let them know that if at any point in time they wanna work with us, we would love to work with them. And if a solar developer comes along and we wanna, wine them and dine them and see if we can get them to go there, I'm all for it.
well, apparently these developers, have people scouring the entire state.
Well, yeah, but a lot of that is about to be shut off. I mean, we're about to see the switch go click. As far as the new legislation that just was passed in the last legislature, so it's. I don't wanna be a pessimist, I'd love to see solar out at the airport. And I'm with Richard in that, I'd love to see it happen, but. Realistically. I don't know that we should be spinning our wheels forever
Yeah.
beating a dead horse.
So is that the feeling of the group? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. It was hasty lunch. I'll submit my bills shortly.
I'll take that as my opportunity to.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate, you all having me, inviting me out. I'm happy to do it again sometime if you have more questions.
Great, thank you.
I apologize for interrupting the middle of your.
We do really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for the education on the power grid. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
and consider yourself very lucky to have your solar on your roof.
Well, still hasn't been turned on yet, for person, so there's still a battle.
As long as you do it before December 31st, you're good.
Here we go. Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda, Ken, you want to speak to that?
To what?
Notification of hangar sales.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could get that included in the monthly report, if there's any property transfers.
Are we talking about just the structure?
Yeah,
Well, everybody has to come to Richard to sign a lease. The new
Right.
lease, every time there's an exchange.
And
Right.
everybody's getting that.
That's what he's getting
Oh,
at.
okay.
can we hear about any
Oh, I
sales?
see.
So we find out who the new neighbors are and,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
you know, so we know who's who out there.
Yeah,
I will provide you with a report of what I am provided, but I can tell you that I have threatened to cancel leases over people not disclosing what it was, but I mean, it's all public record, the bills of sale, what people are claiming to pay.
I don't care what they pay.
Well, I think that's part of it.
Well, I just wanna know if John Smith bought hangar number 56, that's been a transfer, we're expecting to see different people there. You know,
I mean, the amount of money.
we know the right people are going in that hangar, you know, not different people.
Well, and the amount of money that gets exchanged in one of those transactions, I mean, that's something that's individually negotiated between a buyer and.
Right, it's $1 and other valuable considerations.
Yeah,
Well, it's not deeded, right? It's all bills of sale, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a.
Oh, these kind of
it's
things
a-
find out.
It's a short.
Yeah, I just wanna know
Bought the hangar.
if somebody bought a hangar, because it does affect other people at the airport. Because if John buys this hangar here, he has the meter to all the power here, all these hangars. And, yeah, and then we find out we don't have power.
Well, I'm guilty of being one of those that when I sold, I've had a few, but when I sold the first one or two, I didn't immediately report it to the town. And it wasn't because I was trying to hide it. I had no knowledge that I needed to. So I think there has to be a mechanism in place that either incentivizes people to do that or penalizes them if
Yes.
they don't. So that's kind of in your belly.
Yeah, I mean, you could put something in the lease that required
I think it's in there.
somebody to notify you when.
It's in there.
It's in
Oh,
there.
it is?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like ragu spaghetti sauce.
Right.
It's in there.
Yeah, that was just a thought.
Okay.
We just ran into that, and run into it a couple times, the last couple of years. Certain person bought the power, hanging with the power, the switch went off, pulled the breaker out on us. And the new guy bought it, says, what's this panel for? Oh, we put in a panel in the meter so we can all have power. Well, how come we haven't got power? Click, breaker went back in, we all have power again. You know, it just,
Oh, you're right.
and that's just one of the issues, but I'd like to know who's going in and out of the hangars and who out
I
there.
agree.
Because,
So
It'd be good to have.
how do we set it up so it's a so they are. They'll do it.
No way to do that.
Now,
It's in the
the
lease.
only way to do that is to have Bruce. You know, give him the authority so that when he sees somebody new. What, you know,
what
who
are
are
you doing
you?
here? Yeah.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
If you're leasing your hangar, you have to get written approval for the town to lease the hangar. But nobody does. And if you transfer, then you have to notify the town to transfer.
And then you prepare the lease.
Correct, and they have to pay for the new lease and then, you know, but. You have to prove, and I'm not the police, right, so. Are you leasing it, or are they just letting you keep your aircraft there? Are you leasing the whole, are you leasing part, or anything like that? Did you sell it, are you renting to own, or anything like that? And I can't do it for airport hangars if I'm not gonna do it for any other piece of real estate in town. So it's really up to them, and it's something that I can't enforce, and I'm not going to enforce because.
But when the tax bills go out, either the previous owner's gonna pay the tax.
Honestly, the ones that transfer the most are like $30 tax bills. And we say, if you're not the current owner, please forward it.
Yeah.
People do.
Geez, I gotta have a talk with somebody if it's a $30 tax bill.
Well, that's what you get, I guess the high rent district, that's why.
Oh, oh,
Charlie's got the best location in Older.
Okay, Mr. First, on anything to review on the minutes of the last meeting today?
No.
Okay, new business. I'll start it off. What the hell's the status of that snow blower out there? Is that gonna be going this winter?
That's the hope. The problem that we've got is that, they're right down snow, that's like, but it knows. They bid on this and did not review all of the specs. So they've flown the guy out from the Midwest twice now to look at it, and now they're figuring out a way to. Make it work for us without us paying more.
I'm just asking, would we be better off to tell them to take it back? I mean, how's the spec written? Cause I understand they make the very same thing we have right now. At least that's what I'm told.
I'm not sure, I would have to. And then we have to go bid it out again, so that's another grant process.
What's the problem? It doesn't make to the machine?
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
hydraulic. And what we have is a PTO.
That's a problem.
There's a problem, yeah, it shows up, we can always, they do anything with it.
Well, I saw a little small.
It's supposed to be exact
blower in, Charlie's hangar, we could use that.
What,
and
why?
that's right, so, yeah.
So
Who screwed up?
That,
Who's
that
screwed
was
up?
gonna be my question, I mean, who screwed up? We paid the engineering firm to bid this out, right?
Yes, and then the vendor signed that they were in compliance with this, so then they shipped the equipment. And then it shipped here, and we got on site, and I said, where's the engineer? So the engineer came. And then they're like, well, this doesn't work. So then it's how do we make it work, because we only have one bidder, right, it was a sole source, because of Buy America. And so that's where we are right now.
Yeah, but can't we hold somebody responsible?
I mean, I've got $100,000 piece of equipment out there that I haven't paid for.
Oh, you haven't paid?
You haven't paid for it?
No.
Oh, okay. That's,
Good man,
That's.
good man.
that's what I,
Like that, but,
I couldn't get the answer to that when I was asking up there. Bruce didn't know.
no, well, I have not paid for it.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
even think I paid the engineering fees related to it.
That was gonna be my next
It's
question.
even
Do
better.
you
So-
plan on not paying for it until it works?
Yes.
So,
Don't try to be stubborn.
so how do we light a fire under somebody to get this thing?
I'll call tomorrow. I'll call Gail tomorrow. I mean, it's their job to manage it.
I know it's July,
Their job to
but
review the proposal.
November's gonna be here quick.
Remind them the contract's coming due too.
They're aware.
If,
I'm sure they are.
They just offer sponsorship.
did Gail drop, I'm just asking, did Gail drop the ball on this? I just heard comments that, and then
So look, there's a reason why I been as persistent as I have been with them. And why we've gone through so many people.
Yeah.
And I think that you get to the, I'm being careful because we have to work with so. The echelon of people that we deal with all the time, I think maybe are a little lackadaisical for my liking and the amount of money that I pay. And Matt was the most competent one that we had. We didn't have issues when we had Matt.
right,
They saw that. He's now the director of aviation. I think things got overlooked.
But
yeah.
That's way off.
It's a square peg in a round hole.
I believe
Don't
that
work together.
they submitted a proposal that wasn't qualified for our specifications, but that there was a level of not being thorough by our engineering firm. They didn't identify it before it shipped 1,500 miles.
Are we in position with the old one, so that if we need to go to that, we'll have it?
That's running,
Yes,
it is running,
And I know it's running, but
but it's the
that's,
same condition as it was last year.
that's what I'm getting at.
It's just tired,
It's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it's just tired.
So am I hearing this right, is we have two pieces of equipment, brand new. To plow out there, but they're not compatible, is that the,
Well,
the carrier vehicle is not very.
tractor's 25 years old.
oh, okay.
But the snow blower is brand new.
We're gonna just replace the snow blower because it's chain drive, it's mechanical, and it's just worn out.
Yeah,
So we just wanted a new blower, not tractor, just the blower, to replace it.
but it's not
Plug and
compatible,
play,
it's not
but it's not
compatible with your
compatible.
tractor,
It's not plug and play.
you know.
So in order to make this work, you've got to. You gotta put a huge hydraulic pump running off the PTO. And that is expensive and prone to issues. Or we get one that's PTO driven, one or the other. Those are the only two options we've got. Is that right?
Correct.
I'd go with the PTO.
It sounds like you're trying to jury rig it, I wouldn't go that route.
No, and that's what the company wants to see done. The company says we've shipped it there, it's there. Tell you what, we'll sell you a huge pump that's PTO driven and you.
More complexity, more things to break.
Exactly. Exactly.
Take it back, send the right one.
That's why I asked the question. I wonder if that is the answer to send it back and say, give us what we had. I don't know, I just,
Well, it seems to me, if you've never paid for it, so isn't somebody gonna come looking for the money?
But if you only had one bidder, maybe do they make,
Wasn't even a bid. We solicited them to get what we'd asked for.
but do they even make the PTO one? I mean, can you get,
I'm gonna find that out.
Yeah,
Bruce says this.
right,
They
it might not
Can
be.
get a replacement for what we've got. He told me that the other day when I asked him. Don't know any more than that about it.
On the-
Have you heard anything?
On the subject of machinery, is the zero turn working out?
Yes,
And is that old green John Deere something that we can get any money for or haven't?
so hopefully, I have got photos and I'm just waiting for, United Ag and Turf is supposed to be giving me some sort of a high level summary as to the ailments of it, so I can just close that. If everything goes well, I'll finalize that document tomorrow, even if I don't have that, and I'm gonna ask the select board to put it out to bid next week, so it'll go as excess property. Probably won't get a lot, but if somebody wants to take a run at themselves and have themselves a cool on one, then just go for it. But it's not anything that's gonna generate a bunch of profit, if we get 500 bucks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I see used ones in working condition for like 12 to 15, so, and if that one needs $15,000 of work.
Right.
It's a tinker toy for somebody.
Yeah.
And I have one other quick question, paving. Is that gonna, I heard today that will be done. I heard the other day they couldn't get the right mix. So it wasn't gonna, and then I heard today it's gonna be done, they're gonna get the mix at a Gorham or something like that.
That's correct.
That is correct.
So they basically, they're gonna start hauling it on Tuesday,
Tuesday,
I think so.
And
okay.
one. I just found out from Richard that Dana has resigned. And the reason that we were meeting at 5 o'clock was because of Dana. We're putting him literally on overtime. My point, do we wanna change the time of the meeting?
I'm not literally on overtime, I'm just on extra time.
Oh, yeah, I'm.
Saturday.
So do we want to be nice to Richard?
That's,
Well, not only that, but this, I drive an hour over here and an hour back and,
So what would be best for you to start time?
I'm easy, but I'll do whenever. But
It's up to you.
Obviously prefer daytime meetings, and if we're doing it in a setting where it's available online, then. You could have it at 6 o'clock, don't do it at 6 o'clock, but, you know.
Then
So
you
we
Pick up,
can-
when do you want to,
We used to do it at 1 or 2 o'clock in the
Yeah, I was gonna
afternoon.
say 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
pick a time.
I'm good with it, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Everybody, what's it, 1 or 2? Take one.
One would be perfect.
One would be
Pocket
great.
one.
If it runs great, you know, one time. and-
That's right.
1 o'clock. would be
1
great.
o'clock.
Okay.
Do you have any candidates to replace?
So Philip Nusa is the gentleman from Sydney that bought
Pitts guy?
the,
Yeah.
yeah, and he had, when Bill had submitted an application, he was the other applicant.
You said there was another one.
So I do have, his application on file, and I know that in the past Brenda Morgan had expressed interest in serving if there was a vacancy.
Okay, so who's gonna make the decision? You?
The select board will.
Oh,
They'll
okay.
need- They'll need to accept,
Oh, okay.
the resignation on Wednesday of next week, formalize that, and if I have, Brenda will know about this, so if she wants to, she can put in a volunteer application, or if she wants to continue to participate the way that she had. If not, candidly, I'll put Phil's application before that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Next
filled it
Wednesday.
out on. Took like 5 minutes.
Right. So if anybody's interested in that, would be the forum for them to do it. I think it's a small group of people that would be interested anyway.
I have a question. Parking lot paving.
Mhm.
I missed.
Seems like a
Parking lot
Yeah.
paving.
Oh,
That kind of just has been set aside, it's still on my TIF tracker as an approved expense, the TIF committee had approved up to $50,000. At the time, the price was 80 something. To do that. So,
well, with the dudes out there already with paving machines and dump trucks. We get a,
They're the ones that bid it.
oh, they're the ones that did it,
I think so, right?
so.
we can ask again, doesn't hurt.
Yeah, maybe whether
Might be
they
a whole
may
lot.
do for 50, who knows? Maybe not.
If they did it for 50, is that something that we?
If they did it for 50, the funds are already set aside for us.
So can we do the $50,000?
That's what you would want.
What would that include, or what would that not include?
Ask them what we can get for $50,000.
A parking space.
True. I propose, before you ask them what they can get for
I would
50,000,
propose to do the
go
whole
back and say,
project.
hey, listen, you're here, could you do it for 50,000? And then if they say no, then say,
I
well,
mean,
what
they're
can
probably
you do?
watching us, but. That's
Good point.
Well, if you tell them that 50's all that's available, it's just, they're gonna say yes or no.
Right,
Then
Do you mind
approach
presenting
them
that?
with- Then you can ask them after what they would do for it.
Yeah,
Well, even if we could do part of it this year, I don't know.
but I mean,
Right.
part of our leverage is that. We don't have unlimited funds, we have a certain amount of money available to do that project, and if they can't do it at that price. Then,
Yeah, but they've got,
you know,
they've got enough projects backed up
Yeah.
so that, you know,
yeah, I mean, everything is being paid.
I mean, yeah, your best shot is asking tomorrow or whatever.
Anybody have anything else?
I don't,
Sorry,
Go ahead.
so just, what is the parking lot? Is it like the park that's right in front of the office?
Where the people, public parks,
yeah,
public park,
Okay, so by like from the
outside
field,
the fence,
yeah,
over by the terminal.
and going through the other gate was kind of what we're looking
yeah,
at.
okay. Sorry,
Do you have any quick update on the 2 events you spoke about at the last meeting?
Not really. I met with the coordinator of the karting event. That seems optimistic. I don't know if I've given you that number, but they have pretty much offered $5,000 for the airport to close it down one evening, hold it closed through the next day. They would open it up about 7:30 that evening. So that's where that one is. The one that was looking at September, October has been response. So that's necessarily put aside of us for calendar year, because I'm not gonna commit to that at this point in time.
And when was the cop one? When did they want
The
to do it?
car one is next summer sometime.
Next summer?
Yep, and it would run Friday through Saturday. They come in
Sounds-
Friday at like
sounds-
5 o'clock and build everything out, you know, staging, barriers, all of that stuff.
So where's that at? Are they gonna contact you again or?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
they're just pulling.
I mean, it's an ideal location for something like that, if they do it.
At some point in time, we talked about it last meeting, and I forgot it. We said we ought to put at some point, some standards together, so if other people want to do it, we can say, here's that standard, and either they meet them or they don't.
You mean for like a going?
What I'm, quite frankly, what I'm concerned about is wanting to do snowmobiles out there.
Oh,
Because it's gonna put oil and salt and gas all over, I don't want my plane in it.
yeah, I'm with you.
And so we don't need to do it now, but at some point, just put together standards that we all agree to. And we'll have that as a basis for anyone else. Because down the road, that may
Make sure
be some,
they provide a big insurance policy, that you're a named insured and get a policy.
anything else?
I think I just have one more small thing, but it was something that really aggravated me, and that was, so the FAA usually pays 90% of our expenses. They've increased that number to 95.
Whoa.
The state of Maine has cut back their contribution. And so I said, well, don't you think the federal government intended for that money to get to the airports instead of to the Department of Transportation of the state of Maine? And it was a big, big difference, and so needless to say, I'm probably not on the top of their holiday list, for gifts or cards. But I told them that I thought it was disgusting, and the person we were talking about earlier at the Sanford Airport chaired the Maine Aeronautical Advisory Board, just to give you a little bit of insight. And pretty much it was a lack of responsiveness, a lack of airport support. And I would argue a vote of no confidence in the aviation staff at the Department of Transportation. So that's the airport manager of the Sanford Airport, was the chair of that advisory panel at the state. And she point blank walked away, and when she did, she put it in writing to God and everybody. So it's a really difficult time with Maine DOT and the aviation division. And it's a money grab at this point in time.
I've been waiting 3 weeks for a phone call from the DOT to get together.
So he's coming to the airport, or he was even here last week. But when I brought that up in the meetings, because I told the director of aviation, if there's a member of my advisory committee that would like to meet with you, you do not need my permission. And he did not like that at all, that I would give the card.
Well, I talked to the guy, Tyler, and he very quickly said, I'm not gonna meet with you without my boss, let me talk to him. He didn't call me back, so I called him back again. And he said, yeah, we wanna meet with you, but we picked a date. And he said, we can't make that date. And I said, well, you're gonna let me know when you can meet so I can let these guys know. And he said, yeah, I haven't heard a word, it's been,
I believe he's coming out on Tuesday when the payday starts, and you won't hear from him.
no, I haven't heard of it.
So it's frustrating right now because we had Tim Lesage,
Right,
we had, well, a couple other good ones. Jeannie was here, she just got done, and they've had complete turnover and nobody really knows what they're doing, unfortunately. So,
That's encouraging.
anyone have anything else?
No.
Will we adjourn the meeting?
Sure.
Great meeting again, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Richard, for